Hello, it's Dave here. I wanted to do a video on bike maintenance, but I want to start off with the basic of bike maintenance, which is cleaning. This was a ride I did with a friend of mine, bridleways. We ended up doing about 38 miles on bridleways. At parts we were pushing our bikes, we were ankle deep in mud, and by the time we got home the bike was absolutely filthy, as you can see, or as you will see by the time we get to that point in the video. And yeah, I just wanted to run through my cleaning program, because I'm a bit fastidious with making sure the bike's clean. There's nothing better than getting the bike out of the garage and having it pristine clean. So what I like to do is clean it every time I have a ride, and I wanted to run through my cleaning process. So let's go. So as you can see, the bike got pretty filthy. I've never known mud like it. This mud did not want to leave the bike when I started washing it. It was just really clacky, if clack is a real word. A bit like wattle and daub kind of mud. It just stuck to everything and got in everywhere. So anyway, let's go on to giving it a clean and make this bike look like new. So the first thing is really get a bike stand. The bike stand you can see here was from Aldi, 30 quid. I mean, you know, it's been priceless. I just use it for cleaning my bike. I've got another bike stand I use for maintenance. Get yourself a bike stand, it makes it a lot easier. Anyway, pre-wash. This is where you just wash off the main part of the muck. I use a hose, don't use a pressure washer, and I just make sure I get the majority of the muck off and just make sure it's as clean as possible before you get into the nitty-gritty. So use a fine spray on your hose if you can, and just wash things off. Make sure you get into all the nooks and crannies and get those big lumps of mud out of there so you can get in and clean it properly. At this point I would start to think about taking the chain off. We'll come to the chain in a bit, and also taking the wheels off so you can give them a proper good clean, which also helps you get in and clean inside the frame as well. So once you got the main parts of the mud off, everything, then remove the chain and remove the wheels to allow for more in-depth cleaning. Okay, so now we're on to the detailed wash. This is where I use a bike cleaner. I use a eco-friendly one that's good to the environment, and I use a paintbrush. This allows me to get into all the nitty-gritty parts on the bike, and at this point as well I'm also looking at the bike over. So as I'm brushing the cleaning detergent on, I'm also checking the bike to make sure there's no cracks or dents or anything broken. Really, I'm looking around the bike in fine detail, and I find at this point it's quite satisfying to sort of get that brush into all the little areas that are hard to reach, getting all those bits of dirt that are ground in, cleaning the cables, cleaning the derailleur, all the moving parts get a good clean, just making sure that everything is clean and tidy, and yeah, clean. Can't beat a clean bike. But yeah, make sure you do check your bike over once you're cleaning. It's a good way to stay on top of the maintenance. You can see when things need doing. And you know, you've got the wheels off, you know, you've got the bike down to its bare bones, so basically you can just get in and check stuff over while it's in the frame and you're not bending down. Yeah, get it done, check it properly, make sure it's good to go for the next ride. Here we go now onto the rinse. Get rid of all that soap and detergent, wash it off the bike. And this is again making sure you're looking in and getting all those little bits of areas where there's muck shoved in them. Get rid of all that with the rinse, making sure you've got a good clean frame, all the components are clean, just making sure it's looking good and looking nice and clean, just rinse the thing off. Okay, so the wheels, start off, wet the wheels up, and then get your detergent and spray it on and around about. Use a big stiff brush for this, and sort of get around the rims, wash all the spokes, and then wash your centre hub as well. I do it with a big brush first, and then what I'll do is I'll get in with my little paintbrush and get in all the nooks and crannies, give them a real good clean, and then rinse it off afterwards, making sure it's looking good. You might need to go between the spokes if you've got a load of dirt in there. It doesn't take long once they're off the bike, both sides obviously, and just make sure you've cleaned it, you've washed it with detergent, you've got in all the nooks and crannies, and make sure you give it a good rinse afterwards, especially the rear cassette. Make sure you rinse it off properly. Wash those boots down with that hose. If you've got some good winter boots on, just give them a quick rinse with the hose, make sure they're nice and clean. So again, when you start cycling the next time, you've got some nice clean boots. Can't beat a good pair of boots. This is an ultrasonic cleaner that I use to clean my chain, and you put water in, then you put some degreaser in. I get mine from Screwfix, no nonsense degreaser, and you just basically drop your chain in and heat the water up a touch and set a time for 5 minutes, and it's like a bit of magic. All that grease and all that muck and all the bits of muck you can't even see come out of the chain, and when you finish, your chain looks like new. And it's such a satisfying thing having a bike that looks clean, having a chain that looks clean. And also just bear in mind, if you get a mechanical, it's usually, if it's not a puncher, it's usually around the drive chain area. So if that's nice and clean, you're not going to get covered in oil when you do your mechanical out on the trails. So do make sure you give it a good clean. It's worth investing in this ultrasonic cleaner. I think this was about £40. My wife bought it me for Christmas. What a great purchase that was. Then once the chain is out of the ultrasonic cleaner, I hang it back on the bike, just draped over the front chain ring, and I hose it down just to wash off that detergent, wash off that degreaser, so you're back down to a plain chain with no contamination of any kind on there, ready to receive the lubrication when you put it back on. So get it back on the bike. Obviously I've put the wheels back in here, and put the chain back on, and then you're ready for the next stage, final stage, which is lubrication. With the bike back together, just give it a quick scan over, make sure everything's in the right place, and make sure it is looking good. Okay, so lubrication. I start off with some GT85, and I spin the chain round, spraying low so it doesn't go onto the brake caliper on the other side of the wheel, and just make sure the chain's covered. This helps to disperse the water, and also adds a nice layer of PTFE across the chain to help it help with the lubrication. So I spray this on, and then what I do once I've sprayed it on, I will run the chain through a rag just to take off any excess, and just make sure all the springs and all the moving parts have got a bit of PTFE on them. It just helps to protect them in the winter months. So here it looks like I'm just turning the wheel. The camera's set a bit funny. At the very top of the picture by the cassette you'll see a nozzle. I'm actually applying lube to the chain. Obviously in wet conditions you apply a wet lube, and in dry conditions you can apply a dry lube. Apply the lube of your choice. But just make sure it's covered all the rollers. So you don't really need lube on the non-moving parts. It's just the rollers in the middle of the chain you need to cover. So you can be really fastidious and put 1 drop of oil per roller. Once you put it on, spin it around a few times, run it through the gears, and then make sure you do take off any excess oil with a rag to make sure you have got the right amount of lube on there, but not excessive amounts. Again, you don't need it dripping in oil, you just need it to cover the rollers internally really, rather than externally. So it's always worth giving it a rub afterwards. And then when you finish, you've got a nice pristine bike and you're ready to roll for the next time to find some more mud, which is what it's all about with gravel riding. Okay, hope you've enjoyed the video, hope you've got something from it, and I look forward to doing the next video and catching up with you very soon. See you later guys, cheers.